Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome on this fine Halloween time. I wanted to put up this quick family-friendly Halloween time recommendation for a film which I also categorize as a second chance film of mine, that being The Munsters from 2022. Now, this is a Rob Zombie project which he filmed for Netflix and came out last year around this time, and the synopsis for it is as follows. Reboot of The Munsters that followed a family of monsters who moves from Transylvania to an American suburb. So, yes, this is based off TV show. This one is starring in this are some familiar faces to Rob Zombie films, which include Sheri Moon Zombie, of course, Daniel Roebuck, and Jeff Daniel Phillips. Plus, there are several other recognizable actors who show up, including Cassandra Peterson, who plays a realtor. You may know her as Elvira, of course. So, I was always more of an Addams Family person myself. It was the one that I'd seen the most in reruns when I was growing up, and I always liked that it felt a little bit darker than The Munsters in some ways. Not as much of an all-out comedy, a little bit more dark humor in that. But I'd seen my fair share of The Munsters growing up, I've enjoyed several other Rob Zombie films, so I figured I wanted to give this one a shot. And I turned it off after 15 minutes. I just couldn't get into it. On social media, I saw reactions seemed very mixed, with some people thinking it was a lot of fun, while others absolutely hated the film. But I just figured, this one wasn't for me, and I moved on. Then last year, I went to Spooky Empire, and I met Daniel Roebuck, who plays Grandpa Munster in this, and we chatted for a bit, and between him being just such a warm, nice, awesome fella, and some other acquaintances I know on social media whose opinions I value, stating how much they really enjoyed this film, I decided to go ahead and give it a second shot. And this time I enjoyed it much more. So it was just not what I had expected when I first sat down with it. Not only was it much more humor-based, like the show was, but it being in color this time instead of black and white in this very wild, loud colors, it was kind of an assault to the senses in a way. And I just had to keep a different mindset as I was going through it. So first, I had to keep in mind that this is supposed to be a funny, family-friendly comedy. Second, it's based on a family-friendly TV show, which was also a comedy, And third is that I just had to kind of keep this hocus pocus kind of mindset, along with some other Disney Channel and Nickelodeon stuff like Girl vs. Monster or Monster House or some of those other kinds of things. I had to keep some more kid-oriented kind of films in mind to realize this is kind of in the same family as those. But with that mindset, I definitely enjoyed it a lot more. I feel like Sheri Moon Zombie and Jeff Daniel Phillips really had some great chemistry, just like they did a few years earlier, or almost 10 years earlier in The Lords of Salem, which I reviewed last week and have a video up, which I will link to at the end of this one. And it felt like kind of like having the more kids-friendly sections of Party City and Spirit Halloween kind of explode onto the screen with this. I can totally understand people really not liking this one, though. Considering Rob Zombie's films and his music, his whole persona in a way, I think that many people were wanting this hard R reboot of this, something taking it much darker than the show was. There was a lot of excitement when this was announced, and I think a lot of people were let down, even though it was never said that this was going to be a hard R reboot or that this was even going to be a big theatrical release. And this film isn't perfect. There are some parts where the pacing is a little bit off, and it's very, very lighthearted, which some may not really appreciate about it, with lots of tongue-in-cheek humor and so on. But it can definitely be a lot of fun and worth checking out. Whether wanting something relatively family-friendly, to put on for the kids, which, this is rated PG just because of some spookier themes and some alcohol reference, I think, or just something really colorful with this feel of the season to put on to kind of like disconnect your mind during, or just have on in the background during like a Halloween party or something. This one's definitely a lot of fun. And, so this was another one that I had tried, didn't like, came back to and found something to like within it. And just yesterday, I was actually had an opportunity to speak with Jeff Daniel Phillips at Spookalicon in Tampa about this film and some other stuff. But we really had some interesting conversations, and spoke about Daniel Roebuck as well. And looking back on how I kind of received Roebuck when I met him last year, I think the reason why Rob Zombie works with so many of these people a lot, they're just some really nice guys. Jeff Daniel Phillips is really awesome, really personable. Really good with the fans, and he was just this regular, nice, laid-back guy you just chit-chat with. We're actually chatting with Sean Hatoshi, who was there in part because of his role in The Faculty back in, I think, the late 90s. You know, we were just talking with him about Rob Zombie's films. I believe they just met during this convention. Horror in general, and the difference between, you know, Comic-Con kind of stuff versus, you know, horror-related cons. Just had really good times, a great conversation with both of them. And I was glad that I gave this film a second chance and that I had the opportunity to speak with Jeff about it. But, you know, your results, of course, may vary with this. But, you know, if interested, just give it a shot, as it's on Netflix. It's one of their exclusives. And you may find that within all of that childish silliness in this film, you may find that it's definitely worth checking out. And speaking of checking out, thanks for checking out my latest video here, which serves both as a second chance film for me and as a family-friendly recommendation for the Halloween season. And yeah, it's definitely a different kind of film that I'd normally do a post for, but definitely enjoyed it. Lots of family fun stuff. But go ahead and sound off in the comments. Are you one of the people who actually enjoyed this film? If so, what was your take on it? But thanks for coming by, and I will see you in the next one.